Of the past. Yes, this is a topic in 2018. The past traumas of Beyonce's ancestors have taken a major toll on her. The pop star told Vogue she had to come to grips after learning she's a descendant of a slave owner who fell in love with and married a slave. And she says her family history is filled with abuses of power and broken relationships between man and women. Yeah, make sure y'all get the likes up, people. We really gonna delve into this. Where is my drink? Where is my drink, people? You know, this situation to me, it speaks to a couple of things. It could be the fact that you have a media who pushes a narrative of racism, a slave. They push a narrative of racism, okay, to the point to where it's no longer going to mean anything. Like it really isn't. Because you're pushing this narrative for what? What reason would it be to push this narrative? How is it helping anybody? But now we want to talk about slavery in 2018. How does that help? Can anybody explain to me how speaking about racism and slavery, well, we know racism, but speaking about slavery in 2018, I just don't get it. But you're stressing over the fact that one of your ancestors married the slave master. Isn't that the plot of one of these TV shows and movies? Doesn't that seem like a plot from one of these TV shows or movies? Let's go into it. I had to process that revelation over time. She said, I questioned what it meant and tried to put it into perspective. Beyonce, 36, isn't alone in feeling this emotional burden. Trauma from harrowing experiences can be genetically passed down from generation to generation, leading experts told the Daily News. Yeah, I may need a drink for this. I don't have a drink next to me. I may need one for this. You know, slavery isn't something that happens just with black people. There are many different nations that have stories of being enslaved or enslavement. I'm a big history buff. I watch a lot of documentaries on the medieval times, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, Babylonia, Persia, the great Macedonian Empire, then the subsequent kingdoms afterward. And the one thing that was very consistent was in how the defeated armies will get sold into slavery or servitude. They conquered a kingdom or a city, they would enslave the people. And these weren't just black people. But the narrative by these pro-blacks is that only black people have been slaves. We need to stop this stupidity. Every culture in the world has dealt with some form of enslavement. Yeah, the Irish were slaves. Even in medieval times, Europeans were enslaving each other. But we ain't going to talk about that. Okay? So are you telling me that all that enslavement genetically passed itself down to them as well, or it's only with black people that deal with that? It's only people of African descent. Taylor, we're talking about Beyonce right now. Yes, the Moors enslaved whites in Hispania, which was ancient Spain, even in Italy, Sicily, even in Western France. The Moors are all over there. You know, look at what the Mongols did. Go study the Mongols, and you come back and tell me. Study the Ottomans and a lot of those Islamic kingdoms in the Middle East over the years and the things that went on. Okay, and you can also look at what's going on right now. Many African Americans have some sort of narrative like this where there's a relationship, voluntary or involuntary, between a slave owner and an enslaved African, says Dr. Monica A. Coleman, a professor of constructive theology and African American religions at the Claremont School of Theology. Whether that's through sexual violence, kind of consensual or involuntary power relations, to a loving relationship, just a legacy of slavery in all of its weight. Both parts where there's love, there's violence, there's enslavement, and there's cruelty. It's just very weighty, she said. A major reason why trauma is carried on for multiple generations is because many people are unable to properly heal from their suffering before they pass it through their DNA. Dr. Joy DeGruy, a prominent trauma expert and social researcher, told the news. The study, to read through some of this. Beyonce told Vogue she's hopeful her newfound understanding of her family lineage can lead to positive changes for her family moving forward. So is she blaming that on why her and Jay-Z have had issues? Is she blaming that on why she's had relationship issues? Is she saying that's why black relationships don't work? Is because of enslavement? I'm trying to figure it out. So that is the reason why black relationships don't work, is because of slavery? Because there were a lot of cultures that dealt with slavery, especially a lot of European cultures. Go look up medieval Europe. Look at how they sold each other in slavery. And then you can come back and tell me that that slavery altered us and created us into subservient people. Because the only people I think are subservient is these people who talk about being pro-black, but they got a white spouse and they got biracial children. Those people, to me, who got their fist in the air, those are the people who are pushing a narrative that they don't live. And the thing about Beyonce is this. I mean, look at Beyonce. She's walking around in this blonde hair, but she's ashamed of her white ancestry. She's ashamed of her white ancestry. You're ashamed of your white ancestry, but you walk around with this long, flowing blonde hair. You're walking around with this long, flowing blonde hair, and you want us to believe that you are ashamed. This idiot can't even spell cone. But anyway. Okay. Well, there you go. Shout out to Gourmet. There you go, sir. You can be all disgruntled by yourself. But I think this is just a cop-out. If you really felt like you hated your white ancestry, why are you trying to look it? Why has your skin gotten lighter? Why has your hair gotten longer and blonder? But I mean, these people say things because they know that nobody's going to criticize them. And I have nothing against Beyonce. But you have to look yourself in the mirror, man. You got to look yourself in the mirror. and understand that you have to basically practice what you preach. You cannot say that you hate the fact that you have European DNA, but look at what you're trying to look like. Look at what your base is. You have a lot of white women who support Beyonce. You do. You have a lot of European women who support Beyonce. A lot of these white feminists on social media put her on a pedestal. This isn't me making things up. These are facts. You have a lot of black women who put her on a pedestal. They try to look like Beyonce. They try to get the long form blonde hair. They try to lighten their skin just to look like Beyonce. Yeah, I've heard she had a nose job too. Allegedly had a nose job, you know. And I think that when you look at society, there's a ton of women trying to look like Beyonce. But even Beyonce has a trouble with the way she looks. This is more from Beyonce. She said, I now believe it's why God blessed me with my twins, the singer said of learning of her lineage. Male and female energy was able to coexist and grow in my blood for the first time. I pray that I am able to break the generational curses in my family and that my children will have less complicated lives. So you mean to tell me, Beyonce, with all the success that you've had, that there's a generational curse because your mother and father are no longer together? There's some type of curse? What about your sister? Isn't she still dating that same guy that she been dating for the longest? She's still with that guy? So I'm trying to figure out, what generational curse are you talking about, Beyonce? These are what we need to know. It would benefit us greatly to understand what angle you're coming from with this. But I know people are going to listen to this and they're going to make it seem like I'm upset or I'm hating or I don't like Beyonce. I think Beyonce is very talented. It doesn't mean that I can't look at what she's saying and call bullshit. You know?